Department of Basic Education is still engaging various stakeholders on the state of readiness for schools to resume as of the 1st of June. Minister Angie Motshekga was expected to give an update on preparations for the reopening of schools on Monday, but ongoing engagement resulted in another postponement to Tuesday. The department is mapping ways to ensure that schools reopen under safe conditions that will avoid the risk of COVID-19 spreading once the phasing in of pupils commences. Teacher unions and school associations have been involved in ongoing talks with the department on how teaching and learning would be carried out and whether all provinces were ready with necessary personal protective equipment. Basil Manuel, Executive Director, National Professional Teachers Organisation of South Africa, or Naptosa, joins us now via Skype. For more on this, a very good evening to you, Mr. Manuel. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Now, I would like to start off by noting the fact that the issue of consultation and the level or extent to which it's taken place has also been a stickler point for the unions. What is Naptosa's satisfaction with the sincerity of this process at this point?
Well, there are a number of issues. First of all, good evening. And let me just make a correction that June the 1st is not a fixed date. It is a proposed date. And the minister still has to, of course, clear a calendar. But insofar as consultation has been concerned, we have been involved. But we are concerned, for example, that we are going to be consulting tomorrow, hours before an announcement is made. And that doesn't sound satisfactory. It sounds as though we're getting a report and we are not being listened to necessarily. But I want to acknowledge that there has been consultation as well. Just on Saturday, we met with the Director General. And of course, we've met with various other levels of the department in this particular process. However, we believe it could have been better.
So what would that mean if a decision were made and is announced tomorrow? Would you feel that you are endorsing top-down decisions that have been agreed to? Because if you're dissatisfied with the extent of the consultation, that should mean that there would be room for more talking and more expansive discussion of issues.
I believe it's a bit of both, because what we want to see is a very sober approach, and we want to see that the concerns we've raised, those sticking points that we've put on the table, have actually been looked at. But more than that the fears, the anxiety, the concerns of our membership at large and teachers in the whole have been considered. The people out there are fearful. And we don't want to see anybody riding roughshod over those fears. We are also concerned about the learners and parents and their fears about going back to school, especially as the economy opens. So what we are looking for, and we are not going to declare a war before there is a war, we want to see that we've been listened to, we've been heard, and that the approach has been measured and considered. And we are still living in hope that this will be, in fact, be so.
Okay.
So tomorrow we'll be telling.
So by the 12th of May, there was, according to communique that was put out there, 2 provinces that were ready. And I want to look at this period, 11 to 15 May, which should have allowed for provinces to comply with the non-negotiables. That would include things such as PPEs, sanitizers and education support personnel. What is the status quo as we speak?
Early this morning, in our check around the country, and let me acknowledge that it is not absolutely scientific. We are busy with the scientific one. 7 of the 9 provinces were still very far behind. The 2 provinces that have indicated that they are almost ready are still not completely ready. But all the provinces have left the starting block. But it is by far not satisfactory. In fact, we will see that almost 80% of schools have reported to us that they have still received nothing, that there are still big gaps, and that the school management teams haven't reported.
And I want to talk about the SMTs themselves. They were, at this point, we're talking about the 18th, they should have been in a position to prepare to receive teachers. Has that happened anywhere? Are they in a position to?
There are very few schools, particularly in Gauteng and in the Free State, where certainly some of these schools could return because they've had the deliveries, etc. In all the other provinces, some provinces, not a single school has managed to do that. In others, very few. Up to 4 and 5% of what we've seen has been delivered. But once we've done that scientific research, which should be out tomorrow, we will have a much greater sense of exactly what the situation is. But it is not looking promising.
And I know I saw a statement earlier by the principals' organization saying that principals at large, to their knowledge, have not had access to schools. So principals should have had access to schools in order to receive some of the equipment, or at least those non-negotiables. What do we know about that? Where are we?
That underscores my point, because the principals would know if they've opened their schools. The principals would know if there have been deliveries. And if the Principals Association is also confirming simply what Naptosa and the other unions are saying, that this hasn't yet happened. So we're not out of the starting blocks. We've still got a lot of work to do.
And support personnel, is there an assumption that all schools has access to this?
At first, let me acknowledge our support personnel. Yesterday was International Education Support Workers Day, and I want to acknowledge them because, in fact, they are the cog around which the health and safety of our schools turn. And tragically, still we have large numbers of schools that don't have any support workers. However, some of the provinces have said to us that they will be using temporary workers in the interim to ensure that the schools are clean and stay clean, because it's not about once-off cleaning. It's about maintaining the cleanliness.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. And of course, we'll continue this conversation with another union. Basil Manuel is the Executive Director, National Professional Teachers Organization of South Africa, Naptosa. Thank you very much. Later on, we will be speaking to SATU to get their point of view of the consultation process, what is still outstanding, what they believe needs to happen for this proposed date of June 1. As Naptosa says, it's not a set date, it's not a definite one, it's still one that's being proposed for schools to reopen. And specifically, we're talking here about grade 7s and 12s. So we're taking a break.